Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to join the budget debate. I thank the Prime Minister and the Minister for Finance for his announcement of a very generous budget. It's one that's inclusive and diverse, and I support it fully. My speech today will cover two key topics. First, the Culture Pass, and second, a proposal to support Singapore's visual arts sector. This proposal takes inspiration from the strong financial backing that we've seen in this budget for businesses that are seeking a listing on the Singapore Exchange, or SGX. In this speech, I would like to suggest similar financial mechanisms to strengthen our local visual arts scene. But first, the Culture Pass. It's a very commendable initiative that makes arts and cultural experiences more accessible to Singaporeans. Last year, I filed a parliamentary question after hearing from arts businesses about their challenges. I heard that even if they were located in the heartlands, not all arts businesses were eligible for the CDC voucher redemption scheme. They would have to be considered on a case-by-case basis. This raised concerns that the arts were not being recognized as an essential part of everyday life. With the Culture Pass now being issued broadly to every Singaporean aged 18 and above, the government has sent a clear signal. The arts are essential to our society, just like any other basic necessity. This money could have been spent in many different ways, but it has come to the arts, and this is a very important and powerful message. Since the initiative was announced, some questions have emerged from the arts community, and I would like to take this opportunity to highlight them here. First, will the Culture Pass be transferable, or can unused credits be donated to arts charities in the same way that can be done for CDC vouchers? Can credits be shared amongst family members and friends? If not, what provisions exist for those who are unable to use the Culture Pass due to severe health or mobility issues? While the push for inclusivity in the arts has been very strong, some individuals, for example, those who are bedridden or who are in advanced stages of dementia, and therefore they are unable to control their moods and behavior, people in these groups may find it nearly impossible to attend events in person. Caregivers may then struggle to find suitable options. Now, I recognize that there is a risk of profiteering if credits are made transferable. And I also see how transferability could dilute the scheme's intent, which is actually to encourage personal cultural participation. But it would, however, be good to know if there is any plan at the moment for what will happen to unused or unusable credits. Secondly, will the government track average ticket prices before and after the implementation of the Culture Pass? And will it intervene, if necessary, if arts groups distort ticket prices? Now, the concern here is that arts groups could inflate ticket prices knowing that a subsidy is now available. If this happens, it could have the effect of reducing the impact of Culture Pass credits, which really have been issued to make arts and heritage events more affordable to the general public and not less affordable. Some artists have also expressed concerns about whether the Culture Pass funds will directly benefit them. Particularly, there is a question as to the proportion of ticket sales that will be allocated as artist fees as opposed to being retained by arts intermediaries. This is not an easy question to address because it's very much an issue of commercial practice and relative bargaining power between artists and event organizers. In a perfectly ideal scenario, the government could set guidelines to ensure fair distribution of ticketing funds across all players in an arts and heritage event. But this could also take away the autonomy of arts groups to plan their own affairs. It might create additional administrative burdens and reporting obligations for the groups involved. I hope, therefore, that the government will continue as part of its larger mission through MCCY to educate artists about their legal rights. This way, artists will be empowered to negotiate for fair remuneration and to reject unethical practices should they take place in Culture Pass-funded events. Another potential issue that's come up is that of ticket wastage. If credits are used to book tickets but attendees fail to show up, valuable resources may be lost. Will the government put in place a refundable deposit system, or will penalties be imposed for repeated no-shows such that Culture Pass holders will be encouraged to use their credits responsibly? I also hope the government ensures that the benefits of the Culture Pass scheme are equitably distributed across diverse arts groups and not just dominated by the larger, more established institutions. The government has announced that independent practitioners can also qualify for the Culture Pass scheme, and I hope that they will be well represented in the final selection of chosen entities. Smaller independent arts organizations must have fair access to the scheme to promote a more vibrant and inclusive arts ecosystem. Lest it sound like the arts community is less than supportive of this program with all the various questions that have emerged, let me be clear that everyone that I have spoken to in the community is enthusiastic about this initiative. The excitement is palpable, such that additional questions I've come across include whether the scheme can be expanded before it has even formally kicked off. Artists want to know if it can include not just local events, but also purchases of local art. I see from guidelines that were issued this week that the scheme will eventually include the purchase of local books. So will there eventually be an expansion as well to local art? There are also questions about whether the scheme will be reviewed before 2029 or 2030, and whether there is scope for it to be enlarged or topped up with even more credits before its expiry. The Culture Pass is a very clever initiative because it goes towards creating demand for arts and heritage performances and events. In a similar vein, I would like to take the opportunity now to float some ideas for demand-side initiatives that could also boost the visual arts sector. Here, we can draw inspiration from the suite of tax and financial incentives that were announced in this budget to support and encourage corporate listings in Singapore. From speaking to collectors, business owners, artists, and other stakeholders, several ideas emerged. First, would the government consider the creation of a government-backed art investment fund with local artworks as underlying assets? Let me explain where this idea comes from and why it might work. And here I declare my interest as a very occasional hobbyist purchaser of art in my personal capacity. Art is a valuable alternative asset class, has a low correlation to traditional markets, and can act as a hedge against volatility. A 2021 Nomura report suggests that contemporary art as an asset achieved an annualized return of 14% between 1995 and 2020. Singapore's own artists are seeing extraordinary sales results. Georgette Chen's Still Life with Big Durian sold for 2.47 million in 2024. This was a 40-fold increase in price from its last auction in 1998. In Singapore Art Week this year, the works of Singapore women artists Kim Lim and Melissa Tan saw promising record-breaking sales. Our local artists are also making a splash internationally, with a record number of them being represented at the recent 60th Venice Biennale. Our local gallerists have also shown remarkable business acumen, and the members of the Art Galleries Association Singapore and many other galleries and dealers have done plenty to raise the commercial profile of local artists both in Singapore and overseas. Public endorsement of local art investment has the potential to strengthen the secondary market. Currently, art acquisition is costly, with added expenses for storage, framing, and preservation. The Art Basel and UBS survey of global collecting found that Singapore collectors are highly financially motivated. From the report, while the highest ranking motivation for buying art was that of self-focus and pleasure in almost all markets surveyed, Singapore was the only market where financial motivations ranked even higher. So we even beat Hong Kong in this regard. And according to the report, between 2019 and 2023, Singapore had expanded its share by value of artworks from 1% to 5% of the global trade. Singapore also had the highest proportion of new collectors at 42% and spent the most on new and emerging artists' works in 2023 and the first half of 2024. So what do these statistics show? They point to clear opportunities. The local art market is showing signs of growth, new collectors are entering, and buyers are financially driven. While art education and awareness remain crucial for long-term demand, we must also meet consumers where they are. And we could perhaps do this by recognizing and leveraging their investment mindset to further develop Singapore's art market. The lack of a vibrant resale market limits participation by buyers. The owners of the Teng collection, a private art collection, and authors of Art Investment Guide, Godalization, as well as other collectors and business owners, have highlighted to me that the absence of a structured secondary market in Singapore is one reason why demand for local art has not yet reached its full potential. To this end, they would like to advocate for the establishment of a government-backed art fund to support the sector. There have been very interesting and dynamic recent entrants to the secondary art market, such as the startup Art Again, an online marketplace for pre-owned art, And We Are Art Collectors, the fractional art ownership platform of Artualize Gallery. Some galleries as well do engage in secondary sales. However, without greater liquidity, buyers hesitate to enter the market. After all, wouldn't we all be more motivated to buy art if we knew that it could be resold and that our capital could be recycled? A useful analogy here is perhaps that of the second-hand designer handbag market. One reason why people don't hesitate to buy Louis Vuitton handbags is because they know that they can resell them easily. The same principle should apply to art. A strong secondary market would give buyers the confidence to invest more freely. If local art is seen as a good investment, buyers will be encouraged to acquire it. And not just blue-chip pieces, there could be interest in spotting the next big thing as well in terms of emerging artists. As more buyers see investment value in collecting Singapore art, resale activity would increase, making it easier for collectors to trade works. This cycle benefits not just artists and galleries, but also auction houses, dealers, and visual art-related businesses such as framing, conservation, and art logistics entities. The third point I'd like to make is that sovereign wealth funds are already recognizing art's value. In a similar but not fully identical point, Abu Dhabi's ADQ recently acquired a stake in Sotheby's, signaling institutional confidence in art-related assets. If other nations see strategic merit in high-value art-related investment, why not Singapore? If good returns are achievable, perhaps GIC or Temasek could consider creating a dedicated local art investment portfolio, perhaps parked in a fund structure and focusing on blue-chip works alongside some experimental pieces. Investment returns could then be derived from things like capital appreciation, leasing, and financing models. Such a government-backed art investment fund could catalyze institutional and private participation and send a strong market signal. It could be advised by expert advisory panels comprising investment professionals, financial institutions, art and cultural leaders, and economists to ensure that financial sustainability is coupled with proper corporate governance. Just as MAS's $5 billion Equity Market Development Program, or EQDP, seeks to attract capital from institutional investors, family offices, and private entities, an art investment fund could potentially do the same. It could position local art as a credible alternative asset class while ensuring that artists, collectors, and galleries benefit from greater financial participation. If the art investments are successful, a percentage of profits can also then be channeled back into arts charities, adding a useful social mission as well to the investment concerned. Beyond liquidity, MAS's focus on tax incentives, regulatory streamlining, and research development grants to encourage local listings mirrors the structural support that Singapore's art market could also stand to benefit from. We should take a closer look at our artwork appraisal and valuation capabilities, as well as the incentives and reliefs that we can offer in terms of direct and indirect taxes. I have cited examples of what other countries have done in both of these areas in previous speeches, and there's no shortage of reference points to start a comprehensive review of the various financial possibilities for our visual art market. There are, of course, existing measures that are and continue to be useful. The Global Investor Program, or GIP, for example, requires foreign investors to deploy a portion of their wealth into qualifying investments in order to be eligible for Singapore permanent residency. This ensures that investors' capital will directly benefit the local economy. The GIP will be refined this year with the specific aim of strengthening the competitiveness of Singapore's equities market. The scheme actually already includes arts businesses within its scope of qualifying industries, which is an important inclusion. But more can be done to connect arts businesses, especially promising startups, with these potential investors. I do not think that many arts businesses are even aware of this option for fundraising. As I've previously raised in an adjournment motion, the government could look to Creative UK as a case study. This network supports the United Kingdom's creative industries by providing scale-up financing, connecting investors with arts entities, and educating arts groups on securing funding through equity, debt, and grants. A similar centralized networking portal in Singapore would help local arts entities to access investment opportunities and financial support more effectively. I hope the government will, at the very least, consider engaging with financial and arts institutions, gallerists, dealers, collectors, arts business owners, and artists. Together, they could create a working group or a task force to embark on a more comprehensive study on how structured financial mechanisms can be put in place to better support Singapore's visual arts creative economy. Now, I'll not deny that there are different views on this point. The idea of mixing art with commerce can always be a little bit controversial. But if viable, these measures can ensure that Singapore's art ecosystem is not just vibrant, but economically robust. If it succeeds, it can provide arts workers with stability, opportunities, and a strong foundation for long-term careers, one that is driven by genuine consumer interest and demand. So I hope the government can consider taking these suggestions on board, and with that, I support the budget.